that's where we begin sunrise this beautiful Saturday morning, 15th of October. ASUU resumes. What's the task ahead? Of course, it's not news to you that the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, suspended its 8-month strike on October 14. Well, it was called to compel the federal government to take some actions and do some things to help improve the university system. All of that, of course, is something that we all understand, but what are the tasks ahead? It's been 8 months, and this is not the first time ASUU has gone on strike. It's been on for something in the region of, what, 30 years now? Repeating the same issue over and over again. Let's have a conversation around this with Mr. John Oloyede, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We also have Mr. Kayode. Oh, is that doctor or professor? Kayode Iswola, who is a research associate, a professor of political science, UNILAG. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Which we shouldn't take away that prof part of it because you paid for it.
What does it matter?
It does matter. You worked for it. And of course, we have the new president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Umar Barambo, joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Okay, but let's begin with you, Mr. Iswola. So, do you think, I mean, this has been on for a while. First of all, let me take you up on that issue, if you don't mind, you know, that we raised of the UNILAG student that was, I don't know, is that what they call rusticated? Well, the student was failed, according to the co-student. What do you make of it? I usually like to decrypt institutions. It's all reduced to one person's action at any given time.
Well, I don't have the facts of the matter. I was listening partially to your analysis on the television. That wasn't loud enough for me, so I couldn't get the details. But all I can say is that the university has a system. UNILAG has a very strong system that ensures that no student is short paid. I know so. I do not only teach and work and do research in UNILAG. I schooled there. First degree, second degree, doctoral, until as I speak. So a lot of things could have gone wrong. I'll advise that you speak directly to the spokesperson of the university, and then you get facts and figures that I may not have as I sit.
No, I'm not even going to, I'm not putting you on the spot for that. Just asking you because you're from there. The reason I ask, because when you say, you know, there is a system, what's the system for a student who fell ill while writing exams in school under the supervision of the course advisor and the HOD?
Well, the much I know is that you must officially report to the university that you are ill, and that report must be processed. It is not just to the table of the course advisor or the HOD. It must get to certain levels of administration.
The question is, they were there when it happened.
Yeah.
They were there. This fellow couldn't have been able to write any letter. They were there. The HOD was there. The course advisor was there. I would have expected that maybe they would do a report and say this happened to a student.
So, you see, they were there. It's different from you are writing. I'm not a lawyer, but a lawyer will speak. It has to be formal. The university doesn't operate on I was there.
Yeah.
It has to be formal somehow, some way. This is not defending negligence on somebody's part if this is established. But I tell you, there's a system that is strong and well established that ensures that no student is short paid. I'm a product of that system. I think you should listen to the
we'll wait
before
for the school to also know. But, you know,
Yeah.
speaking to the ASUU issue, do you feel ASUU is, do you feel validated as a lecturer that, okay, the reason for which we went on strike has been, you know, significantly addressed?
Thank you very much. It's rather a shame of a nation that we allowed our universities to be shut for 8 months. What was ASUU asking for? revitalization of the universities owned by the federal government and the state government, submission of the reports of the visitation panel to the universities owned by the federal government, removal of IPPIS that has been globally notoriously registered as being fraudulent and corruption reading, revitalization of the university, payment of earned allowances, not just allowances, they have been earned, some as far back as 2005 or 2009. And then finally, human resources must be encouraged so that there will be motivation within the system. If these are all the issues on ground for ASUU, today the struggle went and we're where we are. I'm not, to go back to your question, straight to point, I don't think I feel 100% fulfilled, because what we got could have been much more. One, two, we didn't need 8 months of time wasting of the intellectual bugs of the nation, of the world, to arrive at this. We also don't need to starve our lecturers and their families, including their aged parents, to arrive at this. It is sad. It's a thing of mixed feeling. I don't want to shed tears here, but let's hope never again should and will Nigeria experience this kind of thing in the history of the country.
Oh, well, I think I'll take it from where Professor Isuola ended. I'll pick his words, the shame of the nation. For me, I'm not in the academic world, but my conclusion is nothing has been gained in 8 months. Nothing has been gained. ASUU had an 8-point demand from inception. These are not demands that started 8 months ago. I think I read somewhere that in about 23 years, there have been 16 strike actions at the instance of ASUU in respect of the same heads of claim. And now, what was the reason given by the leadership of ASUU for calling off the strike? It says, well, due to the intervention of particularly the head of the lower house of assembly, Mr. Agbajabiamila Miller, the intervention of notable Nigerians, the appeal of the respected Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we're calling off this strike. We have not achieved most of the things we asked for. But because of the intervention, we'll call it off, hoping that the demands will be met. Now, we're in election season. We have this penchant for sweeping under the carpet our big problems until the elections are over to be inherited by the incoming government. And that is what we have done. Again, an escape route so that the election, a lot of things are happening. People are being freed from jail, compromises are being made, you know, politicians are doing their usual things. Oh, ASUU must go. So that when they get to the campaign time, they go, oh, we solved the ASUU problem. It is not that the problem, it's not ASUU's problem. It's like Professor Isola said, what they were asking for. Very simple things. Proliferation of universities. You keep on issuing, the existing universities are not well funded. And you keep on.
One of the issues that one might want to look at in that regard is, I mean, are you sympathetic to the claims that the federal government has that, look, the country doesn't have so much resources anymore to meet some of these demands of ASUU?
Well, that vanishes in the face of the fact that we're borrowing money, we're spending money, and we see the political class throwing money around. foreign currency. I mean, it's not speculative. We see it. The flamboyance.
The politicians' money is not the federal government's money.
Where did the money come from? Do they print money?
It's not the federal government's money, unless someone will come out and say, I saw them taking from the till. But one other issue that we want to look at, I mean, from your own perspective, we'll go to Mr. Barambu shortly. One of the issues I'd like to also look at is the fact that, look, at the end of the day, the issues that are being talked about, as you said, have not really been significantly addressed.
No.
The tasks ahead are there for ASUU, are there for the students, are there for the university systems themselves.
Yes.
What progress do you see being made by any of these, body heads?
Well, let me just clear one point. When you say the monies we see all around us, they are not monies belonging to politicians, do not belong to the federal government. You have a situation where an assemblyman, a member of the political class, earns 45 million, I think, in a month. And a professor who had dedicated his life, before you become a professor in the academic world, you probably will spend like 20, 30 years, earns 450,000. How does it make one feel? So I'll leave that. But now, talking about, look, going forward, what is in this for the different parties involved in the matter? Well, I suppose the students should be well, I mean, they are going back to school. The student leadership, I mean, when we were in school, I attended IFE. We never suffered fools. Every time, yes, we were always coming home, but we were always getting things. I mean, pushing things forward. I think student unionism should go back to what it used to be, because student union leaders should stop fraternizing with politicians. I'm not saying they cannot negotiate, they cannot discuss, but then there should be that boundary beyond which you do not go, you do not compromise. Student leadership, I'm happy the leader is with us this morning. I think they should take it. It's not a fight for lecturers, because most of the things the lecturers are asking for, they are for the benefit of the students. I was joking with my daughter yesterday. I told her that we were discussing something about science, and I'm a lawyer, and she probably did something. I said, you see, I'm a very smart lawyer. I know science and all that. And she said, and she said, yeah, but I am a science student in Unilag. And I said, which Unilag? You that you use kerosene stove in your labs instead of Bunsen burner. Is that you know Bunsen burner? I said, I used Bunsen burner in secondary school. Many universities don't have that now in their laboratories. So the student union leadership, they have a lot to do. ASUU, well, they've tried. I sympathize with them. Many of them are stuck. They've never done anything. I mean, the lecturers, they don't know anything else to do other than to teach. They don't earn money from other sources. But they are fighting to protect a territory. They are fighting to make it, they say Unilag is the best in Nigeria. That's what we're saying then. And is among the 401 to 500 in the world. It's a shame. And then the Nigerian leadership, the government. If you forsake the educational sector, ASUU says 26% of the budget should be given to education. It's not asking for too much.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Barambo here now, the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students. You've listened to a little bit of all that we've been talking about, and you also heard Mr. Olojede's comment. Mr. Oloyede, beg your pardon's comment that we needed to go back to the way things were. First of all, let me begin with you by asking, what's your take on the resolution so far with ASUU, between ASUU and the federal government? Are you comfortable that indeed, there is light at the end of the tunnel, or you have your reservations?
Okay. Good morning. Well, like you said, definitely I have my reservations. But before I answer that question, I just want to correct our lecturer, that's the legal man. You see, there are a lot of things that we at the student level I need to inform the public. For example, now, you are talking about us joining hands to contribute our own quota towards solving this issue. But unfortunately, the student leadership doesn't know the actual problem between the ASUU and the federal government. Talking about the cause of the strike. Now, you made mention of 8 points. Immediately we come on board, we started reaching out, both the government, the ASUU, and of course all the stakeholders that are involved. Unfortunately, we personally requested that the student leadership should be carried along in that negotiation, not to negotiate, but to observe the negotiation process so that we will know where the problem is coming from. Today, if you approach government, they will tell you that, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this, we have to do that. We are going to do this, we are going to do that. If they do this, they do that. If you approach ASUU, they will tell you nothing has been done. But we said, please, let us be in there as observers so that we will know at the end of the day, the fault is coming from which side. The Minister of Labor, Chris Ngige, accepted that. But the ASUU president said, no, it is not in their tradition to invite anybody in their negotiation process between them and the federal government. And we say, Prof, it's not about tradition or constitution or anything, but we didn't say we are going to negotiate for you or intervene, but we will be there as observers. So that if you place 8 demand, the government promised to do the 8, we are saying, okay, please, let's go back to class and continue. And they didn't do that. It is we that will say, no, you are at fault. But we didn't know that. So you have to carry us along for us to know the actual problem so that we can quickly come in on that aspect. Then secondly, that is the same thing I said to the ASUU president and the federal government, that shift grounds at least 8 months is not 8 days. Let's go back to the class. Then negotiation continues. But 8 months is not an easy one for us, the student. So to us, it's a welcome development that at least there is a small agreement between the ASUU and the federal government. And I like what you said, that they respected the president and the head of the lower chamber, Femi Bajamiamila. That is exactly what we did. Immediately I emerged as president of NANS. I sent a letter to the president that please quickly intervene. We equally do same to the speaker. They quickly intervene. And they have answered our call. They have intervened. And here we are.
Well, Mr. Barambu, one other question that comes naturally following what you just said now is, what's the assurance that it's not going to happen again tomorrow? We know that the president of ASUU has said any strike shouldn't last beyond 2 days or thereabout, or maybe even 2 weeks tops. That's what the president of ASUU had said. And we also find it on, in the news now, our channels television also covered that story, where the Speaker of the House of Representatives said strikes should never happen again. But if all the issues have not been satisfactorily addressed, and you just heard the example of Bunsen burner, which is supposed to be used, not being used. Instead, we have kerosene stoves in science laboratories being used. These are some of the issues that ASUU has been asking that government should revitalize the university system, but it hasn't significantly done that or satisfactorily done that. What if tomorrow ASUU says these issues have not been addressed, we're going to have to call out another strike?
Okay, now on the issue of that revitalization fee, according to our findings, the ASUU and FG once agreed that it should be a 200 billion naira yearly for the TED fund to take care of that. But this present administration, according to our findings, are giving 360 billion now, 150 billion on top of the 200 billion as agreed. And equally, in that same letter we sent to the president, we asked him to put in more. And while we are going through the 2023 budget, we saw 460 billion. We thank him for that. But on this note, I would like to call on the ASUU leadership that they should checkmate the vice chancellors, those that are doing the contract from the TED fund, and the stakeholders involved in this issue of a TED fund contract. It's not an easy one. For example, now, government will approve a contract of so billion to do this, to do that, but I'm not saying the vice chancellors used to corner the contract or something like that, but you will find out that people are not doing it up to standard. The ASUU should quickly start looking towards that by checkmating the contract. We are doing our own, but they have to do their own too, so that at least we will not be having all these problems. Because if we do that, it's going to help us. Now, issue of the bouncing bonner and the show that you are talking about, it's not only that. There are a lot of things that are happening, but we have the TED fund, and they have the resources. It is their duty to do that.
Okay. Well, Prof, I'm sure you want to respond to some of the things that the young man said.
Thank you very much. Let me start from Barrister Oleyede. He understands the problem. He knows the reasons ASUU went on strike. Perhaps the information to be added is that when we agreed to call off the strike, there were certain undercurrents between the union and the leadership of the country. You could call it promise as usual, but maybe promise that seems to show, I'm quoting the president of ASUU now, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Let us hope so, and then continue to pray for Nigeria and for the university system so that we can get things done. As they are now, things are terrible in the Nigerian university system. I mean, a student of mine was in my office yesterday, the intention was to break the good news that she just got a job. And then, what's your salary? 560,000 naira as a degree holder, first degree holder in political science. Now, a lecturer too in the university, somebody who has a PhD, does not earn 180,000 naira as they are. How do you run a nation like that? Are you not pushing the youngsters into criminality, into yahoo yahoo, into ritual money saga, even into terrorism? Because man, by nature, will survivor first. Once you cannot survive on what you do, you look elsewhere. Let's hope that the undercurrents of the agreement, which will be made public later at the appropriate time by the national leadership of the union, let's hope those agreements will bring us good things. For NANS, I want to appreciate NANS and the role that the association played in this struggle. We can historicize it. In 1974, a few students of the University of Lagos were to be denied their examination because they could not pay. There was a semblance of protest, which led to riot. And as it happened in Unilag, it was happening in Ife, UI, Uniben, Nsukka, and there were about just 5 universities across the nation as at that time, really. And they were all owned by the federal government. The federal government ultimately decided to cancel the fees, and that snowballed into a policy, the decree that established the Nigerian Student Loan Board. That was not done by lecturer. That is a product of the students' struggle. So Nigerian students, many of whom are now lecturers and professors, have always been part of the development of the Nigerian educational system. So to that extent, I appreciate NANS. That being stated, The NANS president will not convince me very well if he says he does not really understand the problem. You don't have to sit in the negotiation table to know that your lecturers are not well paid. Their salaries are in the public space. You don't have to be in that meeting to know that your universities are not well equipped.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
Yes.
I think the issue he's saying is, look, even if they know the facts from experience as students themselves, it's not a whimsical idea that ASUU took to the federal government. They wrote them all out.
Yes.
Just as Mr. Olomide is saying that, look, I know that they have an 8-point agenda. Mr. Barambo has also mentioned that they are aware of some of these things. But what I think they are suggesting, and he's not the only one, even the previous president said that, look, we're not negotiating. We just want to be there. So that we can help you hold the federal government with whom you came into this agreement responsible and accountable.
Good. But the response of the national president is that it is not in the tradition of ASUU. Let us take what he has said as a suggestion to be considered in the future. But ASUU has a very strong tradition. Remember, you are dealing with a union of intellectuals. You don't change anything without going to the bottom. Remember when the strike was to be called off, the national president was accosted and said, okay, now that you have agreed, are you going to call off the strike? He didn't have the power. He needed to come back to each of the branches and democratically take into consideration people's opinion before you go back to the national. So if this is going to happen, it's not a bad suggestion, I must confess. I was only saying that at now, you don't need to be at the meeting to know the realities of the problem. But we can suggest that going forward, future engagement should involve students. As a matter of fact, one of my suggestions that I will give is that the university autonomy should empower the university councils to decide what happens in the university. It came in 2004. It's there on paper, but government is not respecting it. And in addition to that autonomy is that students must, as a matter of compulsion, must be represented in the council of the university, because university is all about students. If democracy is what we are practicing, and we go to countries around the world from whom we borrowed the current university ideas, in the UK, in the United States, student first. There's hardly any council of any university in which student is not represented. So students must be represented so that their opinions will count in the process of
So, Lady, I was going to ask you about that. Look, is there a law that needs to be adjusted to factor in students being brought into the room when conversations around their future is being discussed?
Well, personally, I'm not aware of any law. But I know that as a matter of prudence, that is what should be the norm. When issues, I mean, you cannot shave someone's head behind him. ASUU says we're fighting because our students are not getting quality education. If the lecturer is not well paid, he will not give his best. If the facilities are not okay, the students will not get the best. You understand? In some schools, you hear of students complaining that, oh, lecturers are always throwing out handouts for students to pay for. Because the lecturers have to survive too. So they have devised a means to raise additional income. And then there are standing rules that say, no, you can't do that. But they still go ahead and do it. Do you understand? So there is no, I mean, you must always hear the other side. You can't take certain decisions without factoring them in. But then, the bigger picture, when you look at it, is this. Autonomy. Prof mentioned that. Everything we are talking about is about autonomy. If the universities, it's on ground, it's part of the understanding that, like they said, there's judicial independence in Nigeria today. And yet, it is still a subject matter before courts. There was a strike last year where we were here discussing it, where they said, oh, there is independence, and the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria had to intervene at some point in time on this issue of, oh, this money should go directly to the court system where the chief judge should manage it. The same thing with universities. There is an understanding that says, oh, the universities are autonomous.
Yeah.
When the NANS president said something about contracts and all that, the university system, as with most of the other things in Nigeria, are overregulated. There are a lot of things that government has no business delving into. They always come up with this idea that, oh, the reason why government must remain in there, than funding education and all that is, oh, if we just leave it to private individuals, it will be priced out of the reach of the poor. Why is it that private universities, you never hear of strikes? If you can afford it. Life is about class. If we continue to tell ourselves that, oh, we are practicing socialism or communism where government must pay for this, pay for that, we are wasting our time. There are no strikes in private universities. Why is it that politicians don't send their children to these federal government universities? They go to universities abroad where the university has a president who is like a governor. In the US, the president of a university is like the governor of a state. He runs the university. The government is not interested. The intervention of government comes in form of a scholarship, loan facilitation.
Bursary.
Yeah, they give them loan. Nigeria used to have bursary. They used to have loans. All these things have been scrapped. And then there are...
So you are saying we should go back to those things?
We should go back to that. There is no... Look, education cannot be totally free.
I think that understanding, needs to be made. But Mr. Barambu, we're winding down. We'll have just about 2 minutes to go on this segment. What would you be telling your fellow students now that ASUU is back? A lot of work is going to be literally speeded up, loaded. I hope that's not going to happen, Prof. But in the event that that happens, what would you be telling your fellow students when eventually that official announcement is made that ASUU is back in school?
So we're back.
Oh, you're back in school
back.
already.
Okay.
So what would you be saying to your fellow students?
Okay, God bless you. God bless you 30 times. You see, just like you said to Prof, we are not saying we want to negotiate or anything, but just to observe. So that if anything goes wrong, if we are protesting, we'll say, no, we were there, the government agree on this and that. Not to be protesting and say, no, lecturers should go back to class, government should quickly fulfill their promise. No, we just want to know where the problem is coming. Because government will tell you it's ASUU, ASUU will tell you it's government. But that one, by the way, to our students, that's my colleagues, let us be law-abiding and be patient enough. As you know, the lecturers are a little bit angry, not because of the strike, but because of the educational system, the way it's going. So probably if they are coming back, they will be teaching a little bit aggressively before they will be able to forgive the government, forgive us, and we'll continue from where we saw. So let's be a little bit patient with them and law-abiding. Likewise, they should be a little bit patient with us. And on this note, I would like to say this thing clearly, that we are going to place our demand before the government. 8 months wasted for us. On this note, we have like 3 to 4 demands that we are going to submit to the federal government. One, they should waive out next session registration for us. Part of compensating us too for wasting 8 months. Secondly, the hostels bills, it should be waived out too. Then thirdly, the stipend for Nigerian students, not to the leadership, but to the student direct. At least, let's say 20,000 for a student to at least get some things that he will go back to school with it. We are going to place this demand. I think we have like 5 or 6, but once we are through with it, we'll address media on that and we'll submit it to the federal government. Likewise, to thank the Minister of Labour, Speaker, the President, and all the ASUU members and the stakeholders that are involved. There are things that a lot of people are not aware of it, but because of my position, I have a privilege of getting some information about it. And that is the same thing we have been telling the ASUU leadership, that for that 8 months is virtually the same thing what the labor minister said. Shift grounds so that we'll come to a compromise stage, and we'll go back to class. Just like you made mention, after the 8 months, we couldn't achieve a lot.
Okay.
So, but with this now, I hope and pray that both parties will fulfill their own promise. As they promise to teach us well, let the government do the needful for them.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Barambu Umar. He's President, National Association of Nigerian Students. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I want to believe that there won't be any aggression in the classrooms. They are afraid.
Definitely, there will not be. Okay. You know, one thing you must not take away from ASUU members is that we don't have any other places to send our children. Okay. They are all in the public universities.
I just wanted to give him that assurance.
We can't be aggressive towards our children.
I just wanted to give him that assurance.
They are not the cause of our frustration.
Kaede Isuola is a professor of, he's a research professor of political science at UNILAG. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. John Oloyede, legal practitioner. Well, he's called you barrister. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
So the task ahead is just the beginning of conversations. Let's hope that more will come to make the school system better. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll take on another issue. Stay with us.